New York's LaGuardia Airport. It's a brisk mid-afternoon, January 15th, 2009. You hear the usual hum of jet engines, that routine buzz of pre-flight checks.
Candid stuff.
Exactly. And then the familiar surge of takeoff. U.S. Airways Flight 1549, it's an Airbus A320, cleared for what should be just a short hop, New York City down to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Pretty routine flight path.
Totally routine. Everything, by all accounts, perfectly normal. And then, in just a terrifying flash, maybe 90 seconds after leaving the runway, the world it turns upside down.
Passengers described it as a gigantic boom.
Yeah, that's the quote. And feeling like you hit a brick wall. And then in the cockpit, that urgent call cuts through the air, almost disbelief in the voice.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Cactus. 1549 hit birds. We've lost thrust in both engines. We're turning back towards LaGuardia.
And Cactus, just so you know, that was the call sign for U.S. Airways back then. Identifies the flight. Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're not just, recounting history. We are plunging right into the extraordinary story of U.S. Airways Flight 1549, an incident the whole world knows as the Miracle on the Hudson.
And it really is more than just a survival story, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's profound. It speaks to incredible decision-making under pressure that's almost impossible to imagine.
And teamwork. Synchronized teamwork that went way beyond just following procedures.
Absolutely. And just the sheer resilience, the human spirit aspect of it all.
So our mission for you today, our listener, is really to guide you through the minute-by-minute unfolding of this crisis. We want to bring a level of detail, maybe some insight you haven't heard before.
We're going to meticulously examine those critical moments.
Right.
From the immediate catastrophic aftermath of that bird strike, the dual bird strike.
Yeah.
All the way to the harrowing evacuation on the freezing Hudson River.
And reveal the lessons learned, because there were profound lessons, universally applicable ones, that are still shaping aviation safety practices today.
We'll look at the split-second choices that, they redefine heroism. The coordinated, almost telepathic actions of the entire crew.
And even the passengers. Their survival strategies, which were surprisingly effective. All of it coming together for one of aviation's most successful and, frankly, most inspiring emergency landings.
Definitely inspiring.
And to do this deep dive properly, we are armed with a really rich stack of sources. We've got minute-by-minute accounts straight from the cockpit, Captain Chesley Sullenberger, First Officer Jeffrey Skills themselves, giving unparalleled insight into their thoughts, their training, their actions.
Which is incredible access. We've also got the air traffic control recordings, gripping stuff. You hear the tension, the immediate response in real time.
Then there are the passenger testimonials. Very personal, sharing the fear, but also the quick thinking and that ultimate relief.
And critically, the detailed, almost forensic findings from the National Transportation Safety Board investigation, the NTSB.
Right. So all these sources together, they paint this incredibly detailed mosaic. It's human, it's technological, it lets us go way beyond the headlines to really understand how the impossible actually became possible that day.
Exactly. How did this happen?
Okay, so let's set the scene for you. January 15, 2009. It was a bitterly cold day in New York City. Really cold.
Yeah, the kind of bites. Weather had been a bit iffy earlier, but by the time Flight 1549 was ready to go, things had cleared up some. Maybe still a little light snow falling.
Right. And this wasn't some epic international flight. It was a standard domestic run, what pilots call a short hop, right? New York, LaGuardia, down to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Exactly. Standard route, standard day, relatively speaking. In the cockpit, two highly experienced pilots. Captain Chesley Sullenberger, 57 at the time, and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles, who was 49.
And they had 150 passengers on this Airbus A320. A real workhorse of the skies, that plane.
Absolutely. And many of those passengers were just like, regular folks, business travelers like Clay Presley heading home to Charlotte.
Yeah.
Probably just hoping to avoid any more delays.
Just wanting to get home.
Yeah. And interestingly, it was First Officer Skiles who was actually flying this leg. That's common practice, They share duties, rotate legs to stay fresh, keep experience levels balanced.
Makes sense.
And for both pilots, this flight was the final leg of a pretty demanding 4-day sequence. So they were likely looking forward to wrapping up, heading home themselves.
And what really strikes you, setting up the sheer shock of what happened next, is just how utterly normal everything felt right then.
Skiles himself said it. He described the takeoff as, and I'm quoting here, just a normal takeoff, normal procedures on the climb out. There was absolutely nothing at all to indicate that this would be any different than any other takeoff in my entire career.
Wow. It wasn't just another flight. It was the absolute picture of routine, predictable, safe.
And that's such a crucial point. It underscores the suddenness, the bolt from the blue nature of it. I mean, think about your own day, right? An ordinary moment,
Yeah.
then bam, something extraordinary, terrifying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what hit everyone on 1549. For a pilot like Skiles with 20,000 hours, normal isn't just cruising along, it's actively monitoring dozens of things, looking for the tiniest issue.
Always vigilant.
Always. But the NTSB confirmed it, there was nothing. No engine fluctuation, no weird sound, no subtle vibration, absolutely zero warning before the impact.
Just instantaneous crisis.
A true black swan event. From total routine to extreme emergency in a heartbeat, it really shows how fast that illusion of control can just vanish.
And that transformation from the mundane to the absolutely horrifying came with the bird strike. Just 90 seconds after that completely normal takeoff.
90 seconds. Barely cleared the airport perimeter.
The aircraft's traveling fast, almost 400 kilometers per hour. That's what, around 240 miles per hour, about 316 feet every second. And they're only at about 1,400 feet altitude.
Very low, very fast. And that's when they hit the flock. Captain Sullenberger in the left seat, he saw them first.
What did he say it looked like?
He described seeing a line of birds right ahead. Very, very close, he said. Too close for us to maneuver around. He remembered them just filling the entire windshield. His description was haunting, as if it were a Hitchcock film. Just this wall of chaos.
Not just a few birds, though.
Oh, no, not at all. The NTSB figured it out later. It was a large, dense flock of adult Canada geese. These are big birds, each one weighing around 10 pounds.
10 pounds, that's substantial.
Huge. They have 5 to 6 foot wingspans. And think about this. Jet engines are usually tested to withstand hitting birds maybe weighing 4 pounds.
So these were more than double that size.
Way bigger and denser.
Yeah.
The impact was widespread. They hit the front edges of the wings, the nose of the plane, and critically, right into the center, the core of both jet engines.
Both engines, simultaneously.
Both, simultaneously, right into the most vital parts, a bilateral strike.
The impact must have been just immense, visually, physically.
Devastating. Passengers felt that gigantic boom, that concussion shaking the plane like they'd hit a brick wall, and in the cockpit, Sullenberger heard terrible noises from the machinery being damaged that I'd never heard in an airplane before.
Grinding metal, tearing sound.
Exactly. Accompanied by terrible vibrations he'd never felt. And then the smell, that distinct, awful, burning bird odor filling the cabin.
Oh, God. Confirmation right there. Organic matter inside the engine.
Burning, yeah. The nightmare scenario.
And the consequence for the plane.
Catastrophic. NTSB report says the thrust loss was sudden, complete, symmetrical, bilaterally, both engines at once.
Both engines. Gone. Just like that.
For a pilot, that is the absolute worst-case scenario for engine malfunction. So rare, so dangerous, it's almost unthinkable.
Sullenberger's reaction must have been shock. Disbelief.
Exactly that.
There you go.
He later talked about his immediate internal thoughts. First, this can't be happening. That classic disbelief when something completely abnormal occurs. Then, almost immediately, this doesn't happen to me. Reflecting on decades of safe flying.
And physically.
Pure stress response. He felt his pulse shoot up, my blood pressure spike, and that classic perceptual field narrow in tunnel vision because of my stress.
Which makes focusing even harder.
Incredibly harder. It's a normal human reaction, but it demands almost superhuman effort to overcome it and execute complex procedures under that kind of life-threatening pressure.
So just 13 seconds. 13 seconds after the birds hit, both engines completely rolled back to idle.
Not just sputtering, effectively dead, gone.
So the plane, this Airbus A320 designed for powerful thrust, is instantly just a glider, a 68-ton glider.
An incredibly heavy, unpowered object. Losing altitude fast, losing airspeed fast.
But in that critical sudden silence, Sullenberger's training just kicked in.
Immediately, his first action, take command, assert control. Calmly, but with urgency, my aircraft. Then directing Scales, get the QRH loss of thrust in both engines.
The QRH, that's the Quick Reference Handbook, right? The emergency Bible.
Exactly. The step-by-step guide for every emergency imaginable.
Yeah.
Every pilot lives by it in a crisis.
And almost at the same time, the call goes out to air traffic control. That chilling Mayday call.
Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is Cactus 1549. Hit birds we've lost. Thrust in both engines. We're turning back towards LaGuardia. You can just hear the strain, the controlled urgency in his voice.
And the controller, Patrick Harton.
He described it as shifting instantly from just a normal focus state handling routine traffic to a hyper-focus state where you just focus in on the emergency itself. Everything else just fades away.
The whole atmosphere in ATC must have changed in that second.
Completely. From that one word, Mayday,
Uh-huh.
every other plane becomes secondary. His entire mission becomes saving Flight 1549, a race against time based only on those few terrifying words.
It's just incredible. Less than 2 minutes. From totally normal takeoff to this. A life or death scenario.
Processing an unprecedented event, diagnosing total system failure, making impossible decisions with seconds ticking away and altitude vanishing.
From utter routine to utter crisis. What followed was just this unbelievable test of skill, instinct, decision-making under the most extreme pressure. I mean, what would you do? Less than 4 minutes to save 155 lives. Hashtag tag 2, the captain's rapid decision-making under immense pressure.
Okay, so picture this. Both engines gone. Sullenberger's in this extraordinary situation. He has mere seconds, literally seconds, to figure out where to land this thing. And he knows they're losing altitude and speed incredibly fast.
So first thought must be back to the airport.
Absolutely. Standard procedure. LaGuardia's right behind them. Air traffic control, Patrick Harton, immediately starts offering runways. First runway 13, then runway 4.
But Sullenberger's replies, they were short.
Very terse. We're unable. Just that. Harton understood. He said later the conversation was very short and to the point, which was appropriate for the emergency. No time for chat, just critical info.
So LaGuardia was out. Almost instantly. Why? Not enough altitude.
Not enough altitude, not enough speed, not enough energy left in the aircraft to make the turn and glide back without stalling or crashing short. It was a calculation made in fractions of a second.
Okay, so then ATC suggests Teterboro Airport, smaller field in New Jersey.
Right, off to their left. Sullenberger looked over. First Officer Skiles actually admitted he was kind of concerned that he was actually going to try for it. Skiles thought, I didn't think we could make it.
Same problem, altitude.
Exactly, losing height too fast. Trying to turn towards Teterboro also risked stalling, crashing into heavily populated areas. It wasn't viable. Those conventional options were literally falling away beneath them.
And that's when he made the call, the Hudson.
The stark, almost unbelievable conclusion. He communicated it with this chilling calm. I'm not sure we can make any runway. We're going to be in the Hudson.
He actually thought to himself, great, the Hudson River was our best opportunity.
Yeah, it was really the only thing in sight where we could land this airplane. It sounds counterintuitive maybe, but it was the only flat, long, relatively clear surface available.
Now, the NTSB looked into this afterwards, right? Could they have made it back?
They did extensive simulations, really revealing stuff. They found that about half the time, experienced simulator pilots could make it back to an airport if, and this is the crucial part, if they started the turn immediately after the birds hit.
Immediately, no hesitation.
Right. But here's the kicker. When they added a realistic 35-second delay.
Why 35 seconds?
That's the time it realistically takes for the crew to react to the shock, identify the failure, grab a QRH, find the right page, and start the engine restart procedure, which is what they're trained to do, try to get the engines back.
Okay, so with that 35-second delay factored in.
Every single simulator pilot crashed before reaching any runway. Every single one.
Wow. So following the procedure, trying to restart the engines, actually made it impossible to reach an airport.
In this specific, low-altitude, time-critical scenario, yes. It's a stark example of where rigid procedure meets harsh reality. That 35 seconds isn't laziness. It's human factors. Processing shock, finding the checklist, initiating steps.
So the NTSB concluded.
Unequivocally. When we took into consideration the decision-making process that Captain Sullenberger went through, we realized that it was not possible to make it back to the airport. Their final word, putting the plane in the Hudson, was the right call.
Not panic, just the only viable path left.
Exactly. A decision based on deep understanding of the aircraft, the physics, and the brutal lack of alternatives.
Okay, so the Hudson was the right call, but it wasn't just about choosing the river. The actions Sullenberger and Skells took in those final moments were critical, and some weren't exactly standard procedure, right?
Well, they were executing immediate actions. First Officer Skells, who was actually fresh out of Airbus training, knew exactly which checklist page to go to. He grabbed that QRH, started the engine restart attempts.
But the checklist itself? It wasn't really designed for this exact situation.
Not really. It was, as the NTSB noted, assembled for an event that occurred 20,000 feet, high altitude, where you have maybe 10-15 minutes to work through a detailed 3-page procedure.
And they had, what, seconds? A couple of minutes at most?
Exactly. Skills said he only got to about a page and a half through this checklist in the time that we had. The NTSB pointed out with hindsight that the crew spent critical time trying restarts when maybe they could have been prepping for ditching.
But again, that's training, right? You try to save the engines.
Absolutely. It wasn't a criticism, more an insight into the limits of standard procedures in unprecedented, fast-moving crises at low altitude. That tension between protocol and immediate adaptation.
Which brings us to a really key decision Sullenberger made. Starting the APU early, the auxiliary power unit, that wasn't top of the list for this emergency.
No, it wasn't at the top for a dual-engine failure checklist initially. Yeah. And it was a moment of, well, adaptive brilliance under pressure. The APU is essentially an emergency generator.
Keeps the lights on, basically?
Way more than that. Think of it as the lifeblood for the A320's electronic brain, its advanced fly-by-wire system. Without engine power, the main generators fail. If Sully hadn't started the APU when he did.
Screens go dark.
Screens dark, flight controls revert to a much more basic mode, and critically, those flight envelope protections would have been lost.
Explain those protections. What do they do?
There are software safeguards in the Airbus system. The pilot's controls go to computers first, which then command the control surfaces. These computers constantly monitor and ensure the plane stays within safe limits, preventing stalls, overbanking, excessive pitch.
So, a safety net?
An absolutely vital automated safety net, especially when you're low, slow, and have no thrust. The APU kept that net active. It meant Sullenberger could fly the plane right to the edge, about 20 knots slower than the recommended minimum speed, knowing the computers were still helping him avoid a stall.
Allowing him to focus purely on the landing.
Precisely. It wasn't just thinking outside the box. It was deep system knowledge, knowing how to bend the rules, preserve critical functions when every second mattered. Truly remarkable.
And the collaboration between them. Sullenberger and Skiles, it sounds almost
Yeah.
telepathic.
It really does. Sullenberger said they didn't have time even to talk about what had happened and what we should do about it. The workload was just too intense.
So how do they work together?
He said they collaborated wordlessly, knowing, intuitively, what we should do to help the other, based on our own long experience. Skills, with his 20,000 hours in recent Airbus training, knew the checklist. Sullenberger focused on flying. Seamless, nonverbal teamwork.
Crew resource management in action.
Textbook CRM. It's not just talking, it's anticipating, supporting, understanding. And that deep connection was clear in this exchange, just before impact. Sullenberger asked Scales, got any ideas, actually, if not?
Sounds almost casual given the circumstances.
He clarified later it wasn't flippant. It showed how deeply internalized these team skills are. He was asking, is there anything else? Any last thing we can possibly do? Exhausting every option.
And Skiles' reply.
Just not. Meaning no. We've done everything humanly possible. That brief exchange in the emergency landing of a lifetime is just an incredible testament to their professionalism, their shared trust, right up to the very end.
Wow. So while this intense, almost silent ballet is happening in the cockpit,
Yeah.
imagine the cabin. Just feet away, the plane's a glider heading for the Hudson. What was happening back there?
Right. Let's shift focus to the cabin crew and passengers, preparing for what looked like an inevitable, terrifying impact. Hashtag tag 3. The crew's role in preparing for impact.
So the plane is descending rapidly. No engine noise, just silence and the rush of air. And Captain Sullenberger makes just one announcement to the cabin.
One single announcement. But it was, you could say, a masterclass in communication under extreme pressure. Carefully chosen words, maximum impact, clear instruction, minimum panic. That was the goal.
He knew he had one shot.
One shot. He later said he took an extravagant amount of time, 3 or 4 seconds, which feels like forever in that situation, to choose my words very carefully.
Why so careful?
He wanted to sound confident, not agitated. He understood that basic human psychology. Courage can be contagious. He used aviation's concise language, where single words are packed with meaning for the crew.
And the words he chose?
Brace for impact. Simple, direct, powerful.
Brace. What does that signal specifically?
To the flight attendants, brace immediately means an emergency landing is imminent. It triggers their training. Help the passengers avoid injury during the landing by shouting their commands. It gets them into emergency mode instantly.
And impact.
That was for the passengers, to give them a vivid image, a word picture of what to expect. He knew they were descending incredibly fast, like an elevator dropping 2 floors per second. A hard, violent landing was coming. People needed to prepare, mentally and physically, for that brutal stop.
Did it work? That carefully crafted message?
Immediately. Sullenberger said even through the armored cockpit door, he could hear the flight attendants up front, Donna and Sheila.
Yeah.
And he was sure Doreen in the back was doing the same, just instantly began shouting their commands in unison to the passengers.
Wow. Instant
A
response.
direct result of his clear, calm, authoritative communication and their rigorous training. It shows how effective leadership, even just a few words, can cascade into life-saving action.
So the captain gives the command, brace for impact, and the cabin crew just snaps into action.
Immediately. Their training kicks in. They transform from service providers to emergency managers in that instant. No hesitation.
And they start shouting.
Brace, brace, brace! Heads down, stay down! Over and over, their voices cutting through the fear, the weird silence of the powerless aircraft. Sullenberger found it comforting, he said, a sign that his message got through, that the team was working as one.
Getting everyone on the same page.
Exactly. And this unified, forceful response was absolutely crucial. Managing panic, directing passengers who were likely terrified and confused, and a huge part of that was enforcing the brace position.
Remind us what that is again?
Knees together, feet flat on the floor, body bent way forward as far as you can, arms wrapped under your legs or braced against the seat in front.
Why is that position so important?
Simple physics, really. Biomechanics. On impact, your body gets thrown forward violently. If you're already in that forward tucked position, the amount of movement back and forth is going to be reduced, and the level of injury will be less. Spreads the force, reduces whiplash, minimizes injury during that sudden, brutal deceleration. A small action, but potentially life-saving.
The crew maintaining calm, giving those clear, loud instructions. It must have been vital.
Absolutely vital. Preparing 150 people for something nobody trains for a water landing, their professionalism, their leadership in those final seconds, their dedication to procedure, indispensable. It really set the stage for the positive outcome.
A testament to the training and the role of every crew member.
Every single one plays a critical life-saving role, no doubt.
Okay, so the cockpit crew is flying the impossible glide. The cabin crew is prepping for impact. What about the passengers? What was going through their minds as the Hudson River rushed up to meet them, those final seconds, plummeting towards the water? For the passengers, the reality must have been terrifyingly clear.
Absolutely. It was this raw mix of emotions. Personal reflection, pure fear, but also, for some, this surprising survival instinct kicking in. Patrick Harton, the controller, imagined the mood. People are anxiously waiting. Wanted reassurance. Brace for impact. What does he mean, brace for impact? It's profound uncertainty.
And we heard from one passenger that final message.
Chilling. Just emailed my wife and just said, I love you, and I didn't say anything else because I really did not want her to worry.
Yeah.
With a split-second decision. No time for explanation, just pure emotion.
But alongside that fear, some people were already thinking practically.
Remarkably, yes. Clay Presley, the businessman heading home, he immediately thought, if we're going to crash, I know I need to figure out where the exit rows are. If the water comes in, you need to be able to hold your breath long enough to get to those doors open if you can.
Wow. Mapping an escape route even then.
Incredible self-preservation. Problem-solving under duress.
Yeah.
Even without formal training, that instinct kicked in.
And what's really amazing is this sense of collective spirit that emerged.
Yeah, and multiple accounts mention this. All the passengers really started kind of pulling together. It wasn't just chaos. People started organizing themselves almost spontaneously.
Someone yelled out about the doors.
Exactly. Be ready at the doors. And the reply came back from people near the exits. The folks at the door says, we're ready.
That's incredible. Shifting from individual fear to collective readiness.
A shared commitment. It's a powerful example of how humans can collaborate in a crisis, find strength together, even facing, what seemed like certain death.
Yeah.
As they got lower, the view was just surreal. Water rushing up. All we saw was water cascading over the windshield. It was like a tornado, someone recalled. Just this violent blur between air and water.
And then the impact itself, violent.
Violent, yes. A rapid, brutal deceleration. People were thrown forward. Pieces of the plane were being torn apart. Some people were thrown around pretty good. Jarring, rattling, a definite hard landing.
But the plane held together.
Largely, yes.
Yeah.
Miraculously. And then after that bone-jarring slam, this really remarkable moment. The plane popped up, and it was just sort of gently rocking in the waves.
The sudden calm.
Almost surreal calm after the violence. A collective shock, maybe. One passenger said, we all just sat there, we were all in shock, and we were waiting for what's next. The immediate fear of impact was gone, replaced by stunned disbelief and, well, what now?
And the pilots, what was their immediate reaction after hitting the water?
Relief, actually. Sullenberger said the deceleration felt uniform, which was good, meant the forces were spread out, helping keep the plane intact. After the jolt, he and Skeels turned to each other at that moment, and at the same time using the same words, said, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought.
Shared relief. They'd done the impossible.
Incredible relief. But definitely not complacency. They knew surviving the impact was just step one. Now came a new, immediate threat. The freezing cold Hudson River.
So the water landing itself, the ditching, it was just an extraordinary piece of flying, a testament to Sullenberger's skill, his instinct, his calm.
Absolutely. And what makes it even more remarkable is that pilots weren't actually trained for this specific scenario in simulators. It was just considered too difficult, too rare.
So he was relying purely on experience and understanding of the aircraft.
Deep experience, profound understanding of aerodynamics. His technique was precise. He kept the nose up and wings level. Critically, he let the tail hit the water first.
Why tail first?
That helps absorb the initial energy, slows the plane down more gradually, reduces the shock on the main body of the aircraft. It prevents the nose from digging in, which would cause the plane to cartwheel and break apart instantly.
A catastrophic failure avoided right there.
Exactly. And Skiles was crucial here too. He was calling out to me airspeed and altitude as I was looking at the water ahead to help me judge that critical height.
Which must be incredibly hard over flat water. No reference points.
Extremely difficult. Depth perception is notoriously tricky over featureless water. There's seamless, wordless teamwork again, absolutely essential to hitting that perfect angle, that precise speed.
But conditions helped too, didn't they? The NTSB mentioned luck.
They did. While skill was paramount, they acknowledged it took a bit of luck. Crucially, we had a very clear day. We had a perfect condition for the river. Minimal waves, good visibility, not much boat traffic right at that spot.
So if it had been stormy or dark...
Could have been a very different outcome.
Yeah.
The NTSB called it just a series of really fortunate events that lined up alongside the crew's skill. The right pilot, right place, right moment, unexpectedly good conditions, despite the engine failure. So they survived the impact. The plane's floating, this unlikely boat. But immediately, there's a new, terrifying danger. It's rapidly filling with icy Hudson River water.
A race against time now, against the cold.
And against the plane sinking. Captain Sullenberger opens the cockpit door, takes one look at the cabin, and shouts that one powerful word, evacuate.
Galvanizing everyone into action.
Instantly, but the cold was immediate. That water was cold. It was very cold, so your feet are freezing, one passenger remembered. Just shock, then painful numbness setting in.
What were the temperatures again?
Air was only 21 degrees Fahrenheit, -6 Celsius. The water was about 38 Fahrenheit, just above freezing. Around 3 degrees Celsius?
Lethal conditions. Hypothermia sets in fast.
Very fast. Experts say extremities go numb in minutes. Makes moving, climbing, helping yourself incredibly difficult. Time was literally freezing.
And the crew's actions during the evacuation?
Exemplary again. Skiles, the ultimate professional, stayed behind for maybe 45 seconds, finishing the evacuation checklist, shutting down systems. Then he joined Sullenberger in the cabin.
Helping passengers.
Right. Along with a couple of young men who jumped in, they were grabbing seat cushions, life vests from under the seats, passing them out, directing people forward as water flooded the rear of the plane.
And the passengers themselves, were they just waiting?
No, there was incredible initiative, too. People came to their senses, yelling, "Get the doors open, get the doors open." Those nearest the exits acted fast. Clay Presley, remembering his plan, jumped up very quickly, made his way to an emergency door, got out onto the wing.
And the slides. They weren't just slides.
Crucially, no. This A320 had slide rafts, a vital design feature. When the doors opened, inflatable rafts deployed, not just slides. This meant people could get directly into rafts or onto the wing, mostly staying out of that deadly water.
That must have saved lives.
Absolutely critical. But still, some people did end up in the water, shivering violently, paralyzed by the cold. They had to be pulled back onto the wing by others. Inside, the water rose fast, up to our knees, and it was just absolutely freezing cold.
And Sullenberger and Skiles.
True captains. Last one's off. They swept the cabin one final time, making absolutely sure no one was left behind as the plane sank lower. Total commitment to their passengers. So the plane's partially submerged, sinking, people are shivering on the wings and in rafts. And that's when New York City's response kicks in.
LaGuardia sent out the alert immediately.
Instantly, setting in motion this incredibly swift and coordinated rescue operation.
And the first boats on the scene weren't even official rescue boats.
In a classic New York moment, no. First on the scene are passenger ferries. The commuter ferries shuttling people across the Hudson. They were diverted immediately, became the first lifeboats.
Imagine the relief seeing those ferries pull up.
Clay Presley said when he saw that first ferry, he felt like, okay, we're really going to be okay. Just this collective, desperate sigh of relief across the wings. Then, quickly, they were eventually joined by the Coast Guard and Fire Department. A whole rescue armada formed rapidly.
Just incredible coordination.
A real testament to the city's emergency services and the willingness of ordinary people, like those ferry captains, to jump right in. A race against time, against the cold, and they won.
And the emotional impact for people like Patrick Hart and the controller.
Immense relief.
Yeah.
He initially assumed the worst. A water landing twin-engine failure.
Yeah.
He thought there weren't going to be any survivors. Then he got the call, "Hey, Patty, it looks like everyone made it." He said it was like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders.
The sheer improbability of it all.
Resonated deeply, not just with those involved, but worldwide. The rescue itself became this collective triumph. Coordinated effort, human compassion, saving everyone.
So in the end, against all odds, every single person rescued. What does this miracle teach us? About aviation, human limits, that balance between technology and sheer human will. Hashtag sex. The outcome and lasting impact. The outcome. It's just one of the most incredible success stories in aviation history, isn't it? Still gives you chills thinking about it.
Absolutely. Against odds that were just astronomical, all 155 people on board survived, 150 passengers, 5 crew members, everyone accounted for.
And the whole flight, from takeoff to water landing, just over 5 minutes.
5 minutes and 8 seconds. An astonishingly short time for such a monumental drama to play out and resolve.
It was immediately called a miracle, and rightly so, the passengers. Their gratitude must have been immense.
Overwhelming. One survivor recounted going up to Sullenberger and saying, "I just want you to know you saved my life and everyone's lives here." Another put it simply, "In my mind, we were dead. Every one of us came out of that alive. It's a miracle."
But for Sullenberger himself, the relief wasn't immediate.
No, that sense of duty was profound. He described an agonizing 4 hours until I finally received word officially that everyone was accounted for. Only then, he said, were my immediate duties completed when everyone was safe.
That quiet dedication, it just speaks volumes.
After an event like this, the NTSB investigation must have been intense, going beyond just confirming the bird strike.
Oh, absolutely. Their job wasn't just to say birds did it, it was forensic. How exactly did this happen? And crucially, why did everyone survive? What lessons could be learned to make flying even safer? It's never about blame, it's always about learning.
So the engines, they recovered them.
They did, meticulously. One took 3 days to find using sonar. Then exhaustive analysis, they used special black lights, found proteins from many tissues, found a cup of charred remains in one engine core. Grim details. In DNA, confirmed the geese.
Confirmed adult Canada geese, about 10 pounds each. And their analysis showed as many as 4 large birds had hit Flight 1549's engines. Just too much for them to handle.
How did they actually cause the failure?
The birds literally ripped apart the engine's compressors. Then, metal shards from these broken compressors were sucked deep into the cores of both engines, shutting them down completely.
And this happening to both engines at once? That's rare.
Extremely rare. Aviation experts called it a very rare event for even one engine to fail like that from birds, let alone both simultaneously. Statistically, it was extraordinary.
And the DNA tests revealed something else important about the geese, about where they came from.
Yes, a critical detail. They were migratory geese from northern Canada, not the local geese population that LaGuardia had programs to manage, hazing, habitat modification, sometimes culling.
So the airport's existing bird control wouldn't have stopped this.
Wouldn't have prevented this specific collision, no. Which implies this kind of thing could happen again with migratory flocks unless broader measures are taken. A sobering thought.
What else did the NTSB focus on? Training, checklists.
Big focus there. They noted standard checklists were often for high-altitude failures, giving crews more time. 1549 was immediate, low-altitude, dual failure too fast for the standard playbook. This led to a major rethink of training and checklist design for rapid, low-altitude emergencies.
But the plane itself helped too, the A320 systems.
Hugely important. Those flight envelope protections, kept alive by Sullenberger starting the APU early, were vital. That automated safety net prevented a stall at low speed. The NTSB's final take, it was a combination of a good crew with a good airplane. Not just one thing, but a perfect convergence.
So the miracle on the Hudson, it really forced a deeper look at safety, didn't it? Bird strikes, pilot training.
Absolutely. It brought the issue of bird strikes into much sharper focus for the public. It's actually a much bigger problem than the general public realizes. Since 1988, bird strikes have destroyed over 200 aircraft, sadly causing more than 200 deaths worldwide.
And the bird populations themselves are increasing.
Dramatically in some cases. Canada geese populations in North America, for example, went from maybe 1 million to over 4 million. More birds mean more potential encounters.
Are there technological solutions? Putting screens on engines?
Sounds simple, but it's tricky. Screens can break, ice up, or disrupt the airflow engines need. Not a straightforward fix. A more promising area being tested is specialized avian radar.
Radar for birds.
Yeah, systems like one tested at JFK Airport can apparently distinguish items the size of hummingbirds. The idea is to detect flocks and flight paths, alert crews early, give them time to maneuver. Still developing, but promising.
But technology aside, what did 1549 really prove about safety?
Ultimately, it proved that right now the best defense against this threat is a good team in the cockpit. It just powerfully underscored the value of very experienced flight crew with very good training. The human factor remains absolutely critical.
Technology is amazing, but human judgment, adaptability.
Irreplaceable. Sullenberger and Skiles worked together extremely well. That intuitive understanding, knowing what was in his mind and he knew what was in my mind, that's the pinnacle of crew resource management, and it extends beyond the cockpit.
To ATC, the rescue crews?
Exactly. As one controller said, when you work together, you can pretty much accomplish whatever you need to accomplish. This incident became a benchmark. Human skill, judgment, collaboration, overcoming an unprecedented challenge. It showed the power of the human element, even in our high-tech world. Hashtag tech outro.
So wrapping this up, what does it all mean? The miracle on the Hudson, it really wasn't just luck, was it? It was this complex, dynamic interplay, rapid, expert decisions from Captain Sullenberger.
Coordinated heroism from the cabin crew, quick thinking and collective spirit from the passengers.
Plus the robust design of the aircraft itself, especially those flight protections.
And capped off by that extraordinary rapid rescue by New York's emergency services. A whole system working, under pressure.
And the event solidified critical lessons about engine design, bird strikes, pilot training, and maybe above all, the indispensable value of human adaptability when things go catastrophically wrong.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Despite all the incredible aviation tech, the automation, the rigorous checklists, this ultimately came down to human ingenuity, experience, and teamwork under pressure you just can't simulate.
So what's the question it leaves us with?
Maybe it's this. In a world that's striving more and more for automated safety, for perfect procedures, what does Flight 1549 teach us about the irreplaceable role of human experience, of intuition, of that sheer will to survive when the systems fail or face something totally unforeseen?
How do we keep valuing that human element, that adaptability?
Exactly. How does this story challenge us to rethink that balance between amazing technology and the human in the loop? Not just in aviation, but in any high-stakes field. Medicine, emergency response, even our daily lives.
Well, we hope this deep dive has given you, our listener, a fresh perspective on this truly iconic event. Maybe inspired you to think about those moments where preparation meets extreme circumstances and where sheer human resilience makes the difference.
Thanks for joining us.